Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Your Place Inside and Out. Today, we've got a great show for you, and our hope is that you are able to find the inspiration for your place that you have been looking for from our friends right here in town. To start, I had the chance to catch up with interior designer Andrea Sutton, who's going to help us learn about making the most out of smaller spaces in your place. So today we're going to talk about making the most out of the space you have, and in particular when you're limited on space. Andrea, being an interior designer, you've done everything from big places to small places and in between. So when someone comes to you and they want some inspiration, where do you even begin?
The first thing I would ask them is, what are they using the space for? Are they going to have a specific function in mind? Are they trying to resell the home, or is it more going to be for a family space? So that's the first thing we talk about.
What are the key things when decorating and organizing smaller spaces?
One of the key things that people always forget about or overlook in a small space is the lighting. And so we talk about how that lighting can really make the space feel different. We also talk about the colors that are used in that space. And the reason we start with those is they're your foundation. And then we start bringing in the elements of things like furniture, window treatments, lamps, and making it feel more custom.
So let's go from the beginning with lighting. What are the things that you need to consider? What is something with lighting that really can open up a room?
I'm a big believer of lamps. I believe that having different types of lighting for different things, so for instance, if it's an area that you want to be cozy and you're going to read or do homework in, have some sort of a lamp as opposed to an overhead light. It also brings in light into corners, spaces that you wouldn't expect, instead of it feeling small, and it actually opens up those corners.
And what about if you're in a place that has, limited windows as well? How can you open that up a little bit?
You could look to things like mirrors. You will see glass surfaces. So first of all, if there is some sort of a window, we try to get a mirror in there or a surface that will reflect. It's also why you see a lot of glass top tables, or something that's real trendy right now is the lucite furniture, because it reflects the light, but it also doesn't stop your eye from going through.
So now let's talk colors. Is gray the color to go with to open up space, or what are kind of the colors that you can consider to make your place appear a little bit larger?
I am a bigger fan, I do like gray, but I'm a bigger fan of the creamy colors. They are timeless, where gray, like you said, it's a trend. The gray is very cool in some areas and warm in others. So you have to be careful when you're using that gray, because it can get too dark or too warm very quickly, and so the space feels small. I also like blues and greens. They make the space feel cool and also inviting.
So let's talk about kind of the decor. Do you think less is more, or what's the right amount for your home to make it still seem spacious?
That's a trick where we get called in to help a lot, because we have areas when we talk about function, you might need that big sofa, but then you don't need a lot of clutter for a lot of smaller other furniture. Clutter is something we always say, get all of your shelves streamlined, to get your tabletops cleaned off. Look at how many pieces of furniture are in the room. If you do choose to utilize a big sofa, then let's use some smaller pieces in the room as accent.
So when you get rid of the clutter, where do you put it? What are kind of some good organizational tactics to implement when you want to put the things away?
One of our biggest tricks that we see, especially if a space is used for a family area, are furniture pieces that have storage. So one really functional piece is an ottoman with storage. And it has a multi-purpose, because not only can you put your feet up on it, you can put a tray on it, you can store things like throw blankets in it, but you can also use it as additional seating in a pinch.
What are some other good furniture pieces that you can use that have kind of the multi-function but are really good for storage?
Megan, one of my very favorite tricks are the nesting tables. And so you'll see pieces that are 2 or 3 nesting tables together, and what happens is it's just like what it sounds like. They tuck into each other. They're great because you have some place when it's just you or just your family members that can put a glass on it. When you have a party now, you have 2 or 3 extra tables that you can use. It takes the clutter out of the room, but you still function.
And now let's talk about the furniture. If I am limited on space, what are good furniture pieces really to add to a room or eliminate?
Well, planning. First of all, let's back up and talk about the planning. Let's lay out the space, because one of the things that we have a real issue with is people buy too many pieces of furniture too big. And so we talk about a floor plan. So some of the key pieces of furniture that we use in almost every home, one of them would be a sofa. You don't have to use a great big sofa though. There are a lot of options now where we can do a smaller scale sofa. Chairs, you can do things with your chairs. Instead of having a large piece, you could have an armless chair. You might also want to consider small ottomans that can be tucked into a corner, that can be pulled in if you entertain or if you need that extra seating. I do like to have a few tables in a room, as long as they're minimal, so you don't have a lot of clutter on those tables.
So let's talk about some of the popular trends that we're kind of seeing. I know, going through magazines and stuff like that, under the stairways, people are kind of starting to make offices and storage spaces out of that. What are some kind of cool, creative ways that you can open up some space?
Oh, that's a great area to find storage. First of all, we need to think about how it can function. And so we need to make sure those stairs are wide enough. We have a lot of requests for offices under stairs. It's a great place for kids to do their homework, or if you just need a little area to pay bills, we need to make sure your stairs are wide enough to function. We see those spaces used for everything from a pet bed. So if you have a few dogs, they can be tucked in. We see them built-ins for things like bookshelves or technology. Speakers can be hidden in them. So it's a great area that you get some extra square footage.
And let's talk about multi-purpose rooms. People turning closets into something else, or if you're just kind of looking for a divider in between two rooms, or making a family room, an office, and also a family room. What are some things that you can do?
If you have an area that you need to divide, this is your living space and this is an office space, you can tuck your furniture together and have a walkway so they're back to back. So this area feels like it has its own personality, and this area feels like it's your area to watch TV.
What about adding something beautiful in like this with your table? Is that another option to open up some space?
We added this in because we needed the extra seating. As your family grows or as you entertain, it's a great way to get 12 seats out of an area that would have been 6. You can also hide some storage under there. And you might want to tuck things like serving platters or bulk paper towels, wherever it is that you bring into your home. It's also, the kids always fight over the bench, so it's a great way to add that in. And if you aren't able to build something into the wall, say you're in an apartment or a flat, however, there are furniture pieces that can emulate that. And you just tuck them up against the wall, and then you can pull them out later if you need to.
What about shelving options? Sometimes in a kitchen you have extra wine glasses or coffee mugs, and then in the family room you want to hang up, the pictures of your family, but you might not necessarily have room on the table, or eliminating clutter. Is there anything that you can do with shelves that's creative and different?
We do a lot of floating shelves. And so one of the things is then you have an area to put some family pictures or an extra book, or if you have a coffee area where you want to put your coffee mugs. And a key element that people don't think about is the natural light is able to flow around those shelving units. So it allows your eye to keep going, and it also keeps natural light in the room instead of creating more shadows.
So let's talk about if I'm on a limited budget, but really want to open up space and bring in some new, cool, unique pieces of furniture and just, add a little bit of color and flair. What are some suggestions that you have when you're working with a smaller budget?
If you're trying to bring in some of your own personality, I would say what goes on your walls. And capturing that natural light with mirrors, as we had touched on, is a great way to do that. Art is another way to do that. If you're in a small space, I would recommend that you don't use a lot of small pieces, but find a few focal pieces that you love, that look great in your space, that you can put on the wall.